Alright, yo, it's your boy. And today, I wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to speak at you about the yellow sensation sweeping the nation, not Naruto, actually Minato. And more specifically, if Minato could beat Sukuna if they fought. Now, if I sound a little different during this video, one, I'm a little sick, and two, I've now had to redo this video, I think it's 4 times, something like that, so, please try to excuse the, I guess, any strange editing decisions I've made. I'm very tired. I just wanna get this out for you guys, make sure that we can get to work on the next video for you. Now, in this vid, back to more to the point, now in this matchup, I wanna go over this from 2 angles. First, the fair and honest scaling for both Minato and Sukuna in this, and then the second angle I want to tackle after that is going to be me just going crazy with the wank for both of them, just to see who wins if I just while out. Now, the Naruto fandom seems to agree that Minato just decimates Sukuna and that this is not a contest at all. This is so beyond wrong, and I guess that's a big reason why I'm making this video. And I understand that I'm not mainly a Naruto channel, so I think it'd be wise to just scale Minato first in this instance, just in case you guys haven't scaled him yourself. Minato is aptly called the Yellow Flash, and due to his legendary speed in the Narutoverse, he's widely feared by most countries, even outside of his own. His speed in this verse has been scaled all over the place, but the most honest interpretation of his combat speed is FTL, or faster than light if you will, in his KCM and Sage modes, which are basically his best forms. In his base form, however, he would be subrelative, hypersonic-ish, somewhere in that range, while his reaction speed seems to be a little bit different. His reaction speed seems to be about faster than light, regardless of his form, whether it's base, Sage mode, or KCM. One of his greatest assets. However, this isn't why Minato's speed is so feared in the verse. It's actually because he has an ability called Flying Raijin, or Flying Thunder God. In short, Flying Raijin is an OP teleportation ability, allowing Minato to simply ignore the laws of space and distance to teleport to any location he's marked with one of his seals. For example, if you were to put Minato in a different dimension, he could simply teleport back to his own dimension, since he has left his Flying Raijin seals, markings, whatever you'd like to call them, all over his home village. He can also form a Flying Raijin barrier. And what this does is essentially puts up a barrier that will teleport any incoming attacks automatically somewhere else in the world. Right? And these things can be massive. They've teleported just building-sized energy blasts from the Nine Tails, so these things are no joke. Now, this ability is what's called truly instantaneous, and because of that, it's only limited by Minato's absurd reaction speed. Again, it's comfortably FTL, right? And this ability is so broken, OP, unfair, unbalanced, that Minato had entire countries, like I said, refusing smoke with him. And more specifically, we had entire countries refusing to engage the Leaf Village in war over it. This is a level of fear almost on par with that of Madara, as enemy countries in the war, mainly the Land of Rock in the Third Great Ninja War, had tailed beasts, and for those that don't know, almost all tailed beasts are country busters bare minimum, and could easily take out most of JJK. Not to mention these countries having thousands of ninja to throw at the Leaf Village and Minato, some of whom even scaled to these tailed beasts. But no, look, the Leaf Village has the Nine Tails, the Sannin, and Sarutobi during his Hokage era. The other countries could have been scared of those things. Well, strangely enough, this is the most reasonable interpretation of the facts laid out thus far, so let me lay out another fact. The countries fighting the Leaf in the Third Great Ninja War had no qualms about fighting Hokage-era Sarutobi, the two participating Sannin. Tsunade didn't participate in most of the Third War due to the loss of Dan and her fear of blood. They weren't even concerned about fighting the Ninetales either. These countries did, however, have concerns. They had qualms about fighting Minato shortly after the war began, and Minato had a very brief time to demonstrate what he was capable of, going so far as to issue the infamous flee on sight order, effectively surrendering any engagement that involved Minato. Just off top. They wanted no smoke with this man. Now, we don't have a lot of scaling for Minato's AP and durability, but we do know that his Rasengan and Kunai are both enough to harm Obito. His Rasengan nearly kills Obito during the Ninetales invasion. However, all we know about this Obito is that he's stronger than 8-year-old Kakashi and stronger than a squadron of hidden Mist Anbu, putting him well above Zabuza and Kakashi in the Land of Waves. Not super impressive, considering these two barely scaled to building, maybe multi-building level. Another feat for Minato is that he cuts through the older Obito in the war while in KCM. However, Obito was basically off guard here and wasn't exactly fazed by this. He didn't assess, Minato as any real threat to him at any given point during this. So it's dishonest to say he scales to, end of series war arc Obito even in his Edo form. So the most concrete AP scaling we get for Minato is presented during his fight with Raikage A and Killer B. Now, the Raikage and B both acknowledge that Minato was on the verge of killing them both with just his kunai, meaning that his AP with his personal kunai scales between country and multi-country level. As we went over earlier, the tailed beasts are country level, some of them multi-country level. And B is what's called a perfect Jinchuriki at this point for the 8 tails, which is a few times stronger than the other tailed beasts. And A is considered to be superior to B at this time. And in this case, that pretty much puts B at number 1 multi-country, but since Minato scales above him with just a kunai, Minato scales there as well. So to sum up Minato's scaling, he starts the fight with his baseline hypersonic combat speed, FTL reaction speed, instant teleportation, and country to multi-country level AP and durability. In his KCM form, it's fair to say that he gets a similar amp to Naruto's KCM, as they both use the same source of power for this, half of the Ninetales power. And this would put him, comfortably above the multi-country threshold, and he should be much, much faster than KCM Naruto. Minato's much, much faster than Naruto in base, and again, if you get a starting point that's further ahead of Naruto and the same amp, yes, you are just going to be faster than him. So, now, all this being said, is this enough to kill Sukuna? Well, yes, but killing Sukuna doesn't kill Sukuna. So let's go over that. Minato has the AP to damage the body that Sukuna currently inhabits, as this body's durability caps out at about city to multi-city level due to its scaling to high special grade curses. And for those that don't know, baseline special grades are categorized as being able to tank rapid carpet bombing in succession, which scales between city and multi-city. Again, this is about the level of Land of Waves, Zabuza, and Kakashi, and as we went over, this level isn't super impressive, and it's not going to be enough to survive Minato's attacks. However, killing Sukuna's body doesn't kill Sukuna. Now, this is where Minato runs into his first issue in this fight. Sukuna demonstrates that he has a mid-grade degree of immortality, and that he can survive without even vital organs or limbs, and can instantly create new ones out of nothing. This regen can be activated even when his body dies. As Sukuna has shown, he can let his body die, and he simply continues living on in his own astral plane until he feels like regenerating the dead body. And there doesn't seem to be a time limit on how long he can reside in dead objects before he revives them, as he was alive inside his dead fingers for over 1,000 years. So, without removing Sukuna from the planet you're fighting on, there's pretty much 2 ways to really beat him. Cursed energy nullification, or existence erasure, affecting both physical and astral entities of Sukuna. Now, Minato has no means to pull off either of these options, and would therefore never actually beat Sukuna. So, now that I've brought up Cursed Energy, let's talk about Minato's second issue in this fight. His lack of Cursed Energy. Without Cursed Energy, Minato is vulnerable to two of Sukuna's most broken abilities, Malevolent Shrine and Square Bow, Flaming Square Arrow and Bow. I don't know what this thing is supposed to be called because Sukuna, for whatever reason, goes out of his way not to explain this particular ability. We have an idea what it does, but we have no name for it. Like, I'm gonna leave on screen the panel where he uses this. He names it as literally just a square in the text box, so y'all do with that what you want. Anyway, Flaming Square has to be a destructive astral technique, as it is immediately exercised. As it immediately exercised both Jogo and Maharaga with no additional circumstances, and we know that cursed spirits need to be beaten on an astral level for them to be exercised. And this is why we see things like Jogo continuing to live, even as just a head, since his soul had not actually taken any damage during his fight with Gojo. This rule is somewhat flexible for finger bearer curses, as they seem to survive so long as you don't remove the Sukuna fingers that they have in their possession. And I guess this is somewhat in line with the rule of curses, because their astral existence is literally just that finger that they bear. So I guess you're still just removing their astral existence. So even in this case, they still kind of abide by this. Now, this is a problem for Minato, as he does not have the same type of astral defense as a trained Jujutsu sorcerer or a special grade spirit. Minato absolutely could have his soul destroyed by Sukuna, either by his domain expansion or omnipotent flaming square, and he could lose this fight. And even further to this, Minato has arguably barely one ability that can attack someone on an astral level that we're going to go over. Now, this is all to say, this fight doesn't end with this flaming square bow and arrow that Sukuna uses, right? This fight actually ends basically with Sukuna's domain expansion. The reason for this is that Minato would never get hit by the flaming square bow and arrow. He's just too fast for Sukuna to ever land that on him, just so we're all on the same page. Now, as some of you may know, Sukuna's domain is described as a divine masterpiece, and what he does is instantly paints his domain onto everything within a couple hundred meters of himself. Inside this domain, two of his curse techniques, Cleave and Dismantle, will constantly and relentlessly attack everything, both living and non-living, until Sukuna chooses to deactivate it. The biggest problem for Minato here is that even if he can blitz Sukuna and start cutting off limbs, removing organs from Sukuna, Sukuna would simply choose not to deactivate his domain. And we know that he can fight with destroyed limbs. He even goes so far as to remove his own heart before fighting Megami. So it really doesn't matter if, Minato uses his typical fighting style of trying to de-limb people or, attacking vital spots. It doesn't stop Sukuna, it doesn't stop the domain, and even if Minato cut his head off, Sukuna's domain would remain and destroy Minato on an astral level, which again, he has no defense against. On top of that, Minato likely wouldn't understand what Sukuna had done in opening this domain, and not even have the wherewithal to battlefield remove himself before Sukuna kills him. This is because Minato would not be able to see the domain, much less the incoming attacks, and this is because Minato is, again, not trained as a Jujutsu sorcerer. He doesn't have the understanding of cursed energy to utilize anything similar he would have in chakra, which I've explained in other videos. Chakra and cursed energy are not similar enough to where things like this work. One great example of this is that when you were in the Naruto-verse, one of the most powerful techniques demonstrated to us in the war is literally just astral projection, I want to say, of your being, right? So Madara uses limbo clones, and the most powerful thing about these things is that they exist on an astral plane and therefore cannot be seen by anybody, with, obviously one or two exceptions. Meaning that chakra does not grant the same abilities as cursed energy. Meaning, again, they're not very similar. Even in the explanations were given by the author, these two forms of energy are not similar. I cannot stress that enough. I have been hounded about that forever. Chakra and cursed energy, not the same. Do not equal. Alright, let's just get that out of the way. Now, all that being said, back to the main point of this. As far as Minato's concerned with this specific problem, he wouldn't know that, he had an astral attack coming towards him. He also wouldn't even know that Sukuna had set up a 300-meter radius that has guaranteed hits in it that's going to attack him relentless, no matter what happens. He just gets attacked by these cleave and dismantle attacks on an astral level. His soul gets destroyed, Minato dies, and then, if I'm being fair, Minato's probably gonna, take arms off Sukuna, probably stab him in the heart, maybe even cut his head off. It's not gonna be enough to kill him. Sukuna is going to be, torn apart. It's gonna look like he's getting bodied, but in the end, since the domain's still open, Minato's gonna die. And Sukuna's gonna die. Although, Sukuna's gonna regenerate. Minato doesn't regenerate from being killed. So, that's how this first fight goes. There are levels of speed that Minato could achieve that would allow him to actually react to these guaranteed hits and stuff in domain expansion. It's just that Minato's not at those levels of speed. That's why in the thumbnail you do see that I put he's not fast enough to win this. I used to think Minato had crazy speed, and I'm going to show you guys why I used to when I was much younger and I had crazy wank scaling for Minato. So as I said at the start of this video, we're covering two angles. We just covered the fair and honest scaling of this, but now we need to go over what this looks like if you wank both these guys and just see who wins in that case. So let's start with Minato yet again. In this case, Minato is, let's see, where did we have him? So Minato has immeasurable speed because he can move between dimensions instantaneously. We're ignoring the fact that he does it with hacks. He has immeasurable, basically outerversal speed because he has been able to traverse dimensions and transcends dimensions as a whole. Outerversal speed. Therefore, granting him outerversal power in the same way. Because, again, to traverse these things and to break through the barriers between dimensions, you need the AP and durability to do such a thing, not just the raw speed. Therefore, Minato is outerversal. Sukuna in this case, if we're wanking, he is 4th dimensional because he scales above Maharaga. Maharaga scales to a 6 eyes / limitless user and a 10 shadows user. Maharaga beat both of them at once, and both of them should scale into infinite 3D attack potency, especially the limitless user because hollow purple, and hollow purple being obviously existence erasure as a natural law correction. For those of you that don't understand, what hollow purple is, feel free to look at any of my Gojo videos where I've explained it a billion times. Now, that puts Sukuna at 4th dimensional. His speed would be obviously 4th dimensional as well. In this case, he loses because Minato is outerversal. So, if we wank both of them, I can definitely make Minato win. You can as well. Obviously, these arguments are ridiculous, so I wouldn't recommend using them if you want to debate somebody, or if you want to be, just well-informed. If you're being fair and honest, Minato loses this fight, partially due to hacks. And then just as a side note for everybody, I know that in the comments I'm going to see, well, Minato has Reaper Death Seal. There's a very big problem with Reaper Death Seal, right? So, to use this, you have to obviously grab your opponent, but it's not really about the requirements of the ability. It's about when Minato's going to use something like Reaper Death Seal. And he only used it to basically protect the village, to stop the Nine Tails, and he barely even pulled that off. So in this case, Minato likely gets killed by domain expansion long before he even considers using Reaper Death Seal, because it's not like Minato's going to feel like he's in danger. As we went over through most of this video, he's going to be tearing Sukuna apart until Sukuna gets irritated enough to use domain expansion. And again, like we went over earlier, Minato can't see this. He's not going to know what's going on when domain's open. He won't even... So when Minato's passed on, when he has left the mortal coil, he probably still won't understand the danger he was in when Sukuna opened his domain expansion. Meaning that at no point is he really going to consider using the Reaper Death Seal, right? Now, if you want to take this and make Minato win, I guess you could say let's give both of them full intel on each other. I mean, we can do that. It actually does change the fight quite a bit. If you guys do want to see something like that, leave a comment for me, because again, I'm gonna have to do Minato versus a few other people in JJK and Chainsaw Man, so I'll be more than happy to go over things like that. But yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up. If you guys liked the video, let me know. If you have thoughts, if you just want to tell me how wrong I am, definitely leave those in the comments. But other than that, guys, be safe. Take it easy.